this microverse video, I'm going to talk about how to fill out the imminent risk tab in the Family Services Plan. So let's work backwards to see how we even got here. So from the workload, I'm going to pick the Breyer's case, bring them into view by clicking on the Show button, and then go into the Family Services Plan. Again, this is a area of trails if you're an ongoing permanency worker that you're going to be spending lots of time in. So in the Family Services Plan, there are the different areas that you fill out dependent on circumstance. And in order to essentially work with families who are receiving core services, you have to fill out the imminent risk tab every 6 months. So I'm going to click on that, and it's kind of funny that the core services eligibility area of trails for documentation is called the imminent risk of out-of-home placement criteria checklist. That's a little bit wordy, and so a lot of times back at the office you'll just hear people refer to it as the 4A. So again, this is something that has to be filled out every 6 months for the duration that families are receiving core services or kinship care. So essentially, in order to fill it out, you just have to fill out each of the 4 tabs below. So we start out with imminent risk details. So it will auto-populate the date and your name as the worker. And the first question it asks is this child at risk for out-of-home placement? So essentially, for core services to be utilized, kids have to be either in out-of-home placement or at risk of out-of-home placement. So we would always check yes. And then we have to check which children are at risk for out-of-home placement. You're essentially making the case for why the family should receive core services. So I'm going to click on the Select button. I'm going to select each of the children by highlighting them, clicking Add, and then hitting the OK button. You're now done with this tab. Then you go over to Criterion 1, and it may be a little redundant. It's going to ask you again, are these children at serious or imminent risk of out-of-home placement as defined by the Colorado Revised Statutes? So again, we're going to mark yes, because in order for families to receive core services, we always have to say that kids are at imminent risk of out-of-home placement or that they are in out-of-home placement. This particular tab goes into a little bit more detail. You actually have to indicate the reasons that they're at risk of out-of-home placement. So for the Breyers family, I'm going to say substance abuse is one of the primary issues, as well as mental illness. Now, unfortunately, you can't just stop there. You have to go down below, and in this particular box, which is yellow, which means that it's mandatory, you're going to list how these conditions result in serious or imminent risk. So you could say something to the effect of the parents are unable to safely, oops, I made a typo, safely parent the children when under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Continued on. So essentially, this is your justification for why you think these children are in serious or imminent risk. So you would always tie it back to what the circumstances are related to the family, and for whatever boxes you check, you do have to have your supporting documentation in terms of your decision making. So after you fill out Criterion 1, you go to Criterion 2, and that box says if Criterion number 1 conditions exist, which they do because we just said yes, these are to be addressed through services and or kinship placement because all of the resources, services, and or funding sources were ... So essentially, these are the options, and you'll learn about this in fundamentals when you cover core services, that core services were created for families who don't have resources. So let's say that the Breyers family doesn't have access to different services to address their substance abuse problem, their mental health problem, etc. So under the comments section, again, a yellow field, so it's mandatory, you would indicate here how come the family does not have resources to pay for services on their own. So for example, they may have private insurance or Medicaid, but maybe those sources won't pay for the substance abuse treatment or the mental health treatment that you want the parents to complete. So once you're done with Criterion 2, you move on to Criterion 3, and it says the best choice of available options or alternatives at this time to reduce the risk to the children while continuing reasonable efforts to resolve the conditions that led to serious or imminent risk are ... So let's say in this case, we're going to offer core services. So we could say something like, core services will pay for the cost of substance abuse. There's those typos again. Substance abuse and mental health therapies to reduce risk for the children. Now I'm just typing one-liners for the purpose of this microburst video, but you would want to be a little bit more detailed for each of the criterion yellow boxes, just to kind of, again, justify the reason that you want to offer core services to this family. Now there's another microburst video that I would encourage you to check out, which has to do with how to do a service authorization for core services. That's another step when we're entering core services for families. But at the very bare minimum, you would want to fill out this 4A, the imminent risk of out-of-home placement criteria checklist, the imminent risk details, criterion 1, 2, and 3, and then click Add, and then come back in 6 months and complete this section of trails. So that's it for this video.